Hello, my lovely students. A hearty welcome to this mind-blowing platform, Physics Wallah. My name is Nupur Sharma, and today we are going to fly. Yes, today we are going to read two stories about flying. In the first chapter, we are going to fly with a young seagull, and in the second chapter, we are going to fly an aeroplane. Okay, so let's check it out. Now, what are we going to do today? First of all, we are going to have an overview, then line by line explanation of the chapter, then summary, and in the end, we are going to discuss some question answers. Okay? Okay, now, the overview. The chapter 2 stories around flying is divided into two parts. The first part, his first flight, written by Liam O'Flaherty, is based on a young seagull who is afraid to fly because of distrust on its wings. Yes, we are going to meet a young seagull here who does not have trust on its wings. Okay, and he isn't able to fly, although he has, larger wings as compared to his siblings. His siblings have shorter wings, but still they can fly fearlessly. On the other hand, the young bird cannot gather the courage to trust his wings. He cannot muster up the courage to trust his wings. Okay. Now, in our world, in this world, we have two types of people, okay? One, who are quick learners. They can learn everything instantly. But there are a few people who are slow learners. They learn the things, but they take a little bit of time. Okay, so our young seagull is like that only. Now, how does he overcome his fear? This we are going to learn in this chapter. In the second part, The Black Aeroplane, written by Frederick Forsyth, revolves around the question, who was the other pilot? Now, this second part is quite a mystery, okay? And here, the only question is, who was the other pilot? It's quite a mystery, and the mystery unravels in the end, okay? Now, let's catch up with both the chapters. Now, first chapter. His first flight, the first part, his first flight. Now, your book's name is also First Flight, and this is the chapter, his first flight. Okay, the young seagull was alone on his ledge. The young seagull, as we can see, he is alone on his ledge. What is the ledge? Okay, ledge, a narrow horizontal shelf projecting from a wall or here a cliff. In this case, we are talking about a cliff, and it's narrow. Okay, it's narrow and it's horizontal. It's horizontal in shape, and we can see that the young seagulls live on these kind of ledges only. Okay, his two brothers and sisters had already flown away the day before. Now we can see that his siblings have already flown a day before, but he hasn't. He had been afraid to fly with them. Somehow, when he had taken a little run forward to the brink of the ledge and attempted to flap his wings, he became afraid. Now, what happened? Why he wasn't able to fly? Because when he took a little run towards the brink, what do you mean by brink? Okay, wait. Brink. Here, brink means edge. When he reached the edge, when he was just, he tried to flap his wings and he tried to fly, he could not, because he became afraid. The great expanse of sea stretched down beneath, and it was such a long way down, miles down. We can see that there was a great expanse of sea. It means the great area of sea. He could see sea. He could see the sea, that it was, stretching. And the distance was also a lot. He was just looking downwards. He was just seeing that beneath there is a lot, there is a huge expanse of sea and there is a lot of distance. How can I fly? What if I fall? Okay, so this is going on in the head of the young seagull. He felt certain that his wings would never support him. So he bent his head and ran away to the little hole under the ledge where he slept at night. Now he was certain. He was sure that his wings are not going to support him. Okay, so we can see that he is very much underconfident. Okay, he is underconfident. He is thinking that he won't be able to fly, and what he did, he slept between, he slept in a little hole which was in the ledge. Okay, so he slept at night, even when each of his brothers and little sister, whose wings were shorter than his own, ran to the brink, flapped their wings and flew away. He failed to muster up courage to take that plunge which appeared to him so desperate, even when his siblings were flying. Okay, he had two brothers and a younger sister. Okay, they had flown before him, but he was failing to muster up the courage. He could not muster up the courage. He could not gather the courage to take that plunge. It means to take that jump. He wasn't able to jump. Appeared to him so desperate. Here, desperate means hopeless. He was hopeless. He was thinking that it is hopeless, I cannot fly. His father and mother had come around, calling to him shrilly, upbraiding him, threatening him to let him starve on his ledge unless he flew away. But for the life of him, he could not move. Now we can see that his parents were also motivating him. Now they were tired of motivating him. What they were doing? They were calling him shrilly. They were upbraiding him, they were scolding him, like our parents do. If we do not listen to them, what do? They start scolding us. And the same thing is happening with the young seagull. And they are threatening him that we will not give you anything to eat. You will die from hunger. Okay, but he wasn't able to fly. He could not muster up the courage for the life of him. For the life of him means he was so afraid of death. He was so afraid of falling off that he wasn't able to fly. Okay, that was 24 hours ago. Since then, nobody had come near him. The day before, all day long, he had watched his parents flying about with his brothers and sisters, perfecting them in the art of flight, teaching them how to skim the waves and how to dive for fish. Now, young seagulls. What are young seagulls? Okay, I forgot to explain you what are seagulls. Seagulls are a kind of bird. What is their work? Their work is to dive into the water. You must have seen it in Discovery Channel or something. You have seen them that they jump into the water. They take a flight. Okay, they jump into the water and they catch the fish. Okay, and they catch the fish and they fly again. These are seagulls. And now we can see that it was 24 hours ago. A day has passed. His brothers and sisters, they have mastered the skill of flying, and their parents are also, perfecting them. Their parents are perfecting them in the art of flight, teaching them how to skim. Their parents are also teaching them how to skim. What is skim? To move lightly just above the surface, here the sea. Now, what is skimming? Skimming means actually to walk over water. To walk over the water, to slide, to glide over water like this and catch the herring. Okay, now, the training session is going on. His brothers and sisters are getting training, but he isn't able to fly. He is not even able to pick up his wings. Now, he had in fact seen his older brother catch his first herring and devour it, standing on a rock while his parents circled around, raising a proud cackle. We can see that his older brother, okay, he has an older brother as well. Now his older brother has already caught a herring. What is herring? Herring here means a fish. Okay, he has caught his fish, he has eaten it up. Okay, devour it means eaten it. Standing on a rock while his parents, now obviously he made his parents proud. Okay, so his parents are, raising a proud cackle. What do you mean by cackle? Cackle here means harsh laugh. Okay, the harsh sound of laugh made by the seagulls. Now the parents are actually praising their, older son, that wow, you have, done it. And all the morning, the whole family had walked about on the big plateau midway down the opposite cliff, taunting him with his cowardice. But we can see that since the young seagull isn't able to fly, his parents are actually mocking him. They are taunting him. They are mocking him for his cowardice. And where are they? They are just on the opposite side of the plateau. They are just opposite to him and they are mocking him. They are taunting him. They are making faces. They are saying that, no, you're good for nothing. Okay. The sun was now ascending the sky, blazing on the edge that faced the south. He felt the heat because he had not eaten since the previous nightfall. Now here we can see that the sun was ascending. Okay, the sun was ascending means the sun was exactly overhead. Okay, because it's noon time. And he could feel the heat. He could feel the heat because, you know, when you haven't eaten for very long, when you are very tired, okay, so you feel the heat, you feel everything. Okay, you feel everything. He was feeling the heat because he hadn't eaten since the previous nightfall. It has been, you know, 24 hours. He stepped slowly out to the brink of the ledge. Now he again went to the brink. He again went to the edge of the ledge and standing on one leg with the other leg hidden under his wing. What is he doing? He's just standing and he has hidden one of his leg, you know, behind his feathers, okay? His wing. He closed one eye. And he was pretending to sleep. He closed one eye, then the other, and pretending to be falling asleep. Still, they took no notice of him. When nothing worked out, he started dramatizing. Okay, when nothing worked out, he, you know, started to perform a little bit of a skit. He thought that maybe I would be able to, you know, grab my parents' attention. What he did, he closed one eye, then he closed the other eye, then he did like this, and then he was, you know, doing like this. He was pretending to be asleep so that his parents, you know, take notice of him and give him something to eat. But what happened? They didn't take any notice of him. So it was, you know, a failed plan. He saw his two brothers and his sister lying on the plateau, dozing with their heads sunk into their necks. Now what he saw that his brothers and sisters, because obviously they were also tired from the training which they got from their parents. Now what they were doing, they were just putting their head like this, and they were actually, their heads were like this. They sleep like this, no? They sleep like this. They just coil their heads inside like that, and they were dozing off. They were sleeping. His father was preening the feathers on his white back. His father was preening his feathers. What do you mean by preening? Preening means clearing, cleaning the feathers. It's an effort made by the birds to, you know, keep their, wings clean. Okay, like we take a bath, like we take care of ourselves and our skin, the birds also do that. The birds also do that. They clean themselves constantly and, you know, cleaning their feathers. So this was what his father was doing. Only his mother was looking at him, obviously. His mother was looking at him. Father was busy and siblings were also busy dozing off. But her mother was looking at him. She was standing on a little high hump on the plateau. Her white breast thrust forward. So how was she standing? Where was she standing? She was standing on a little thump, okay, a little higher on the plateau, on higher slide of the plateau. And her white breast, it was protruding, okay. The shape of the female seagulls and the male seagulls are a little bit different, okay. The breast of the female seagulls are a little bit protruding. Now and again, she tore at a piece of fish that lay at her feet and then scraped each side of her beak on the rock. What was she doing? She was, you know, tearing the food. She had food in her hand. She had a fish in her hand, in her, you know, hands, and she was tearing it like that, you know. And she was also, you know, scraping the side of her beak. You know, what do the birds do? Like, we have to sharpen our knives. Sometimes we have to sharpen our knives, you know, with constant usage. Our knives, you know, they turn blunt. Okay, and we have to sharpen them. We have to sharpen them. Similarly, the birds also sharpen their beaks in order to catch the prey. And because obviously they catch their prey with the beak and they eat with their beak. So it's the most important part of their body. So they take care of it. They, you know, she was rubbing it on the rock. The sight of the food maddened him, obviously. The young seagull, he was very hungry and the food was maddening him. He was going crazy, he was going nuts that I need food, I am very hungry. He was starving. How he loved to tear food that way, scraping his beak now and again to wet it. Now we can see that the mother of the young seagull is actually mocking him. Why? Because the mother knows that the young seagull loves to tear the food like that. He loves to wet it. He loves to wet his beak. Wet his beak means sharpen his beak. Now, she is doing the same things in order to mock him, in order to taunt him, so that, he, gathers up some courage. Okay, he wasn't doing it. He wasn't doing it because he was a coward. Maybe he'll do it when he'll be more crazy for food. So that is why the mother is actually trying to set up a bait for his son. Ga, 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 he cried, begging her to bring him some food. Gah, kaul, ah, she screamed back derisively. Now, what he did, he tried to call his mother. He was, ga, 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 give me some food, mother. He was actually crying. He was begging for food from his mother. But her mother screamed back. Her mother was also not less. She had decided that today I'm going to teach my son a lesson. And she screamed back derisively. Derisively means that she was telling him, ha! You're a stupid person, okay? You're not learning anything. I am not going to give you the food. But he kept calling plaintively, and after a minute or so, he uttered a joyful scream. But he kept on. He kept on making the efforts. He was crying in pain. Okay, in pain. He kept on crying in pain, and after a minute, he could see, okay, he, uttered a joyful scream. He started shouting. He started screaming in joy. Why? Because his mother was coming to him. His mother had picked up a piece of fish and was flying across to him with it. Okay, what he saw that his mother is coming to him. His mother is coming close to him with a piece of food with her. Now, he thought that, okay, all my answers have been prayed, all my prayers have been answered, and I am going to get the food. But what he did, he leaned out eagerly, tapping the rock with his feet, trying to be nearer to her as she flew across. Now, her mother was flying across to him. Across means she was, flying like that. And what he did, he leaned out. He was leaning out. He was trying to reach to his mother. He was just trying to reach the food that she was bringing. And in that order, he was tapping his feet. He was tapping his feet because he was, jumping with excitement. Okay, my mother is going to bring me the food. And he was, jumping. And what he did, he was trying to go nearer to her. But when she saw, when she was just opposite to him, she halted. Her wings motionless, the piece of fish in her beak almost within reach of his beak. He waited a moment in surprise, wondering why she did not come nearer, and then, maddened by hunger, he dived at the fish. Now we'll see. Now what happened? When she was just opposite to him, now what is the scene? Here is the young seagull and here is the mother, and she is coming closer to him. Okay, when she was, very close to him, she halted. She halted means she stopped. She stopped and her wings were motionless. Okay, she stopped flying. She was not coming close to him. She was very close to him, but not close enough that he could take food from her beak. And the food was, just within his reach, but not that much in the reach. He could not just jump and take the food. But he waited for a moment. He was waiting for the moment that my mother will come close to me and my mother is going to feed me. But that didn't happen. He was wondering why this isn't happening. Now he was maddened by hunger. He was dying to have that, piece of fish. So what he did, he dived. He dived at the fish. He took a dive. It means he jumped at the fish. With a loud scream, he fell outwards and downwards into space. Yes, this was the ledge. This was the ledge. Here was the bird. Now here was his mother. Now maddened by hunger, he took the plunge. And with a loud scream, he saw that he is flying downwards, outwards. First he was outwards and then downwards. And he, shouted, he screamed. Then a monstrous terror seized him and his heart stood still. Then he realized, oh my God, I have actually taken the plunge. I have actually jumped. When he realized that, there was a monstrous feeling. There was a monstrous feeling. He was very much frightened. He saw that, okay, I'm going downwards, and his heart stopped. His heart sank, his heart stopped, and he could not, he could hear nothing. He wasn't able to hear anything. But it only lasted a minute. It was just for a minute. It was just for a minute. The fear was just for a minute. The next moment, he felt his wings spread outwards. What he realized? He realized that, okay, my wings are spreading. They're going outwards. The wind rushed against his breast feathers, then under his stomach, and against his wings. He could feel the wind. He could feel the wind entering his wings, his stomach, his breast feathers, and then under his stomach and against his wings. He could feel the wind going like that. He could feel that, okay, this monstrous feeling is just for a minute. Okay, I was feared, I was frightened, but just for nothing, because the wind seemed to enter his wings. He could feel the tips of his wings cutting through the air. He was not falling headlong now. He was soaring gradually downwards and outwards. What he saw? He saw that he could feel the tips of his wing. Now he could also feel the tips of his wings. It means that his wings were supporting him. Okay, his wings were supporting him. He was not falling headlong. Headlong means he was not falling like this. He wasn't feared that I am going to fall on my head. Okay, he was not feeling that anymore, because he was soaring gradually. Soaring gradually, it means that taking a flight like this. First he was soaring downwards and then outwards. Okay, it was first downwards and then outwards. It was like that. He was no longer afraid. He was no longer afraid. Okay, all his fear had gone. He just felt a little bit dizzy. Okay, he felt a little bit dizzy. Dizzy means, okay, like that. He wasn't feeling, a little bit nauseated. He was feeling. Then he flapped his wings once and he soared upwards. And then what he did, he flapped his wings. Once he got the confidence, he soared upwards. He went upwards and he said, ga, 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 gaukal. It means that he was cackling. He was, making his usual seagull sound, because he was very happy. His mother swooped past him. Swooped past him means like that. His mother was flying, past him like that. Her wings making a loud noise. Her wings were making a lot of noise. He answered her with another scream. Now he also answered with another scream. It means that her mother was also very happy, and he also showed his happiness. Then his father flew over him screaming. He also saw his father, that his father was also happy, and he was also screaming. He saw his two brothers and his sister flying around him, curveting and banking and soaring and diving, and he could see that his whole family was celebrating. Everyone was celebrating. His father was shouting, his mother was shouting, his two brothers and sisters, they were also flying around him, curveting. Curveting means leaping like a horse. They were, they were doing like that. They were so happy. They were actually doing their seagull dance, that yes, their brother has made it. And they were also soaring and diving. Everyone was celebrating. Then he completely forgot that he had not always been able to fly, and commended himself to dive and soar and curve, shrieking shrilly. Now, the line comes. He forgot that he had not always been able to fly. Obviously, he was a bird. He actually forgot. Once we learn, we think that, okay, there wasn't a time that I was born like that. He was born a bird. Obviously, he was able to fly. And when he was able to fly, he forgot all his fear. He forgot everything. And he was celebrating. He was diving. He was soaring. He was curving. Okay, diving means, okay, going like that. Soaring means going up, and curving, he was also able to take a curve. He was shrieking shrilly. Shrieking shrilly means making loud noises. Shrieking here means making loud noises, like the birds do. He was near the sea now, flying straight over it, facing straight out over the ocean. He saw a vast green sea beneath him. Now, one of the things is done. He has achieved one goal. He has learned how to fly. But the actual craft of the seagull is to get food from the sea. Now what he had to do, he was near the sea now. He was just close to the sea. He was flying straight over it, and he could see that there was a vast green sea beneath him. He could see, he could actually feel it, that there was a vast green sea beneath him, and the ocean was there with little ridges moving over it. The little ridges were moving over it, and he turned his beak sideways and cawed amusedly that the sea which he was only able to see from his ledge, okay, he could just see it from one point, okay, he could see that it was, stretching as far as he could see, but he wasn't able to fly over it. Now he was flying over it, that is why he cawed, amusedly. He was, cawing happily. His parents and his brothers and sister had landed on this green flooring ahead of him. Here, the green flooring means the green sea. He saw that his parents and his brothers and sisters, they were, landing on it. It was as if they were walking on it. It was as if his parents and his siblings were walking over the sea. They were beckoning to him. They were actually signaling him. They were signaling him. They were calling him, surely, come, come, come. They were like, okay, come, you also learn it. He dropped his legs to stand on the green sea. Okay, now comes the another step. He was trying to, stand on the green sea. He was trying to stand on the green sea. His legs sank into it. He screamed with fright and attempted to rise again, flapping his wings. Now what he was doing, as he saw that his legs are, they are sinking. So he thought that maybe I'll also sink. So that is why obviously he was, shrieking. He was shrieking in fright, and he was again trying to stand up and flapping his wings, but he was tired and weak with hunger, as we know that the poor young seagull was hungry. He was very weak. That is why he was not able to lift his wings, and he was not able to, stop himself from sinking. He could not rise, exhausted by the strange exercise. It was a strange exercise. It was a strange exercise because there is something called gravitation, and the gravity was pulling him. The gravity was pulling his legs downwards, and he was sinking into the green sea. That is why he was very frightened, and he was shouting. His feet sank into the green sea, and then his belly touched it, and he sank no farther. After a while, he could see that when his belly touched the water, as soon as his belly touched the water, he was not sinking anymore. It means that the young seagulls do not sink into the water because their stomach supports them. Maybe their stomach is, like that only, that it is able to, support them, and they do not sink. He was floating on it. And around him, his family was screaming, again. They were very happy, praising him, and their beaks were offering him scraps of dogfish. He had made his first flight. Now, obviously, they were his family. They weren't his enemies. They were not giving him food. Because he wasn't, trying to learn. But when he tried to learn, he had actually made his first flight. And he also, started floating on the water. Then his family supported him. Then his family offered him the food. Finally he got the food for which he was actually dying. And he had made his first flight. Yes, he got the praise of his family and his siblings, and he was a master. Okay, now what did we learn? What did we learn from this story? We learned from this story that we should never give up our courage. Okay, we should never give up our courage, and we should also never give up on our family members. We should never give up on the slow learners. Earlier we saw that his parents were, they were mocking him. They were not giving him food. They were starving him. But we saw that it was all for his own good. It was all for his own good. Our family sometimes does the same. Okay, when we learn to, ride a bicycle, I just remember that when I was trying to learn the bicycle, and my father was also very disheartened. He was saying, no, you can never learn, how to ride a bicycle. You are taking such a long time. My father had actually declared in our area that whosoever will be able to teach my little daughter to ride the bicycle, I am going to give him or her 1,000 rupee reward. But obviously, my father never gave up, and one day I was able to ride a bicycle. Although, I got a lot of upbraiding, I got a lot of, shouting. It included a lot of shouting, included a lot of scolding from my father, but eventually I learned it, and I thank him for that. And this is what happens. Your parents, taunt you, their parents mock you, your parents, scold you, but this is for your own good. Okay, now the summary. His first flight is a story of a young seagull who is afraid of flying. A family of seagulls lived on a ledge. As I told you that they lived on a ledge. A young seagull is left alone. He was left alone and he was afraid to fly and is among the slow learners. As I told you that there are some people, or here in the case we can see there is a creature, there is a bird who wasn't able to, learn quickly. He was a slow learner. All that this young seagull needed was motivation. All he needed was some motivation. By way of punishment, his family left him alone on the ledge and flew away. He saw that his family had left him. His family had left him to starve, but they upbraided him. They taunted him for cowardice, and even they threatened him to starve. They threatened him that we will starve you, we will not give you any food, and you will die of hunger. He remained hungry for 24 hours and was unable to shed off his fright of flight. He was so afraid of flying that he wasn't able to muster up the courage to fly. He cried, begging his mother to bring him some food. She picked up a piece of fish in her beak and flew across him and stood just in front of him. Now it is the time for mother's technique. Now his mother was a wonderful teacher. What she did, she brought the food near her, but she didn't, actually, spoon feed him. The piece of fish in her beak was almost within the reach of the young seagull's beak. But then she halted. She stopped. And our young seagull, because he was maddened from the hunger, he took a dive. The next moment he saw, he felt that he was moving outwards and downwards into space. And instinctively, obviously, he was a bird, so he had that instinct. Instinctively, he spread his wings and flapped them. He soared upwards and all his fears were gone. Yes, he forgot his, his cowardice. It was a joyous moment for his family. His family was very happy. His family was celebrating, and he forgot that he was ever afraid to fly. Yes, once he was, ready to fly, he forgot that there was a time that when he was not able to gather his courage. So it was a lovely story. Now let's move on to the second part. Yes, the second part, the Black Aeroplane. The Black Aeroplane. Now the time for a mysterious story. The other part, the earlier part was, it was a motivating part, but here comes the mysterious part. Okay, let's dive into it. The moon was coming up in the east behind me, and stars were shining in the clear sky above me. Now they are trying to, create an image in your mind. What was happening? The moon was coming up. The moon was coming up in the east, and behind me, behind whom? The pilot. Me here refers to the pilot. Now this story is in first person. This story is in first person. The pilot is saying that the stars were shining in the clear sky above him. He could see the sky. He could see the stars. There wasn't a cloud in the sky. He was saying that there wasn't a cloud in the sky. I was happy to be alone, high up above the sleeping countryside. I was flying my old Dakota airplane over France back to England. I was dreaming of my holiday and looking forward to being with my family. I looked at my watch, 1:30 in the morning. Now, the pilot is sharing his experience. The pilot is saying that I was very happy because there wasn't any, cloud in the sky. The pilots, obviously, the main concern for the pilots is that the sky should be clear. if the sky is clear, then everything is perfect and they are able to, take their flight, they are able to take their flight smoothly. And he saw that there were no clouds. He was very happy and he was very desperate to meet his family. He knew that today I am going to England from France. He was flying from France to England, and in England his family was waiting for him. And what he wanted to, meet his family. He saw the time, it was 1:30 in the morning. I should call Paris control soon, I thought. The pilot thought that now I should call Paris control. As I looked down past the nose of the aeroplane, I saw the lights of a big city in front of me. I switched on the radio and said, Paris control, Dakota DS-08 here. Can you hear me? I am on my way to England, over. Now, as you have seen in movies, how do you talk on a radio? Okay, he was talking on the radio, he was talking to the Paris control, okay, he was talking to the Paris control Paris control room. He was trying to contact the Paris control room because, whenever we take a flight, we have to inform the country from where we are taking the flight that yes, we are leaving from the country. Then the country you're flying over, you also tell that country, okay, we are flying over you, we are leaving this country, we are moving to another country. Whenever you enter a new country, whenever you leave a new country, you have to tell the people that, okay, I'm leaving, I'm doing this thing. Okay, so he said that I saw the lights of a big city. He saw the lights of the big city in front of him, and he switched on the radio and he said, Paris control, Dakota DS-08. This is the name of his flight here. Can you hear me? I'm on my way to England. I'm going on my way to England. Over. Over means, okay, my call is finished now. The voice from the radio answered me immediately. DS-08, I can hear you. You ought to turn 12 degrees west now. DS-08, over. Now, what did the Paris control room say? It said that no, you ought to turn 12 degrees west now. Okay, DS-08, over. I checked the map and the compass, switched over to my second and last fuel tank and turned the Dakota 12 degrees west towards England. I'll be in time for breakfast. Now, his call was over and he thought, okay, I am going to England and I am going to have breakfast with my family. He was looking forward to have English breakfast. Now, English breakfast is, very famous, and obviously he is from England only, so he's dying to have that breakfast with his family. And what he did, as the Paris control room told him that you have to turn 12 degrees west, he turned 12 degrees west, and he also checked the map, he also checked the radio and his compass, and he saw that only one fuel tank was left. Okay, only the last and second fuel tank he saw. I thought, a good big English breakfast. Everything was going well. It was an easy flight. Paris was about 150 kilometers behind me when I saw the clouds. Now, what he's experiencing joy. He's experiencing joy because he is thinking, he is imagining that yes, I am going to have a big English breakfast with my family. Breakfast is very important for the people of England, for the people of Europe especially. And when we talk about Europe or England, the people, they have, because on the breakfast table, they discuss, that is the family time. The family talks on the important matters, and they give time to each other on the breakfast table. So he was looking forward to that, and he saw that Paris is left 150 kilometers behind him. He was 150 kilometers ahead of Paris when he saw the clouds. Now comes the drama part. The clouds were in front of him. The storm clouds. They were huge. He saw huge clouds. They looked like black mountains standing in front of me across the sky. Now just imagine the situation of the pilot, that he was so happy. But he said it so soon. He said it very soon. He saw that there were huge clouds in front of him. They were appearing to be huge mountains. They were looking like huge black mountains. I knew I could not fly up and over them. He knew that he could not fly up and over them. He could not fly over them. Okay, why? Because he did not have enough fuel. He even didn't have enough fuel to go back to Paris. Okay, Paris was left 150 kilometers behind him. He could not even go back to them. Okay, he could not go back, and he did not have enough fuel to go north or south. Okay, he could not go north or south. I ought to go back to Paris. I ought to go back to Paris. Okay, sorry. I said that he said that he had to go back to Paris. No, he said that he didn't have enough fuel to go to north or south. He could go to Paris. He could go to Paris. He had enough fuel because 150 kilometers are actually nothing. Okay, I made a mistake. 150 kilometers are actually nothing. He could go back to Paris. But in this line, here at that moment he thought that I do not have enough fuel to go north or south of the clouds. He thought, now again a thought comes that I ought to go back to Paris. I thought, but I wanted to get home. He had fuel either to go to Paris or either go to his home. He had two options, and I wanted that breakfast. But for the sake of the breakfast, for the sake of the time that he had to spend with his family and to have that breakfast, he took the risk. He said, I'll take the risk. He decided that, okay, I will take the risk. I will take the risk for that lovely English breakfast. I thought and flew that old Dakota straight into the storm. Now, he is emphasizing on this thing. The Dakota aeroplane that he was flying, it was an old one. Okay, it was an old one. He dived straight into the storm. Okay, he flew straight into the storm. Inside the clouds, everything was suddenly black. It was impossible to see anything outside the aeroplane. He could not see anything outside the aeroplane. Everything was black. Everything was black. There was no light outwards. Earlier we saw that the moon was visible, but because of the clouds, he could see nothing. The old aeroplane jumped and twisted in the air. It was an old aeroplane, so it was jumping and it was, twisting in the air, maybe because of turbulence, and there was very high turbulence because of the clouds. I looked at the compass. He looked at the compass, but he could not believe his eyes because the compass was turning round and round and round. The compass was turning round and round and round because his compass had broken. He could not believe his fate. Oh my God, my compass had broken. It was dead. It could not work. The other instruments were suddenly dead too. All his instruments were dead. Even the radio. He tried to reach the radio. He tried to contact from the radio. Paris control, Paris control. He was trying to contact Paris control. Can you hear me? There was no answer. Okay, there was no answer. Even the radio wasn't able to catch any frequency. That is why he could not, contact the Paris control. The radio was dead too. And hence, we can see everything was dead. And he was hopeless. He turned hopeless. I had no radio, no compass, and I could not see where I was. Just try to put yourself into his shoes, that all his instruments were dead. He wasn't able to contact the radio. He had no option left, and he was stuck in the middle of the black mountains. He was stuck in the middle of the storm clouds. He had no option. He was lost. I was lost in the storm. Then in the black clouds quite near me, I saw another aeroplane. Now to his luck, he saw that from the black clouds there emerged another aeroplane. Just when he looked outside, when all his hopes had turned down, it was dark outside and he was actually feeling dark in his life, that okay, there is no option left. He saw another aeroplane. It had no lights on its wings, but I could see it flying next to me through the storm. It had no lights on the wing. Okay, it had no lights, but he could see it. He could see it, that the aeroplane was just flying, next to the storm. I could see the pilot's face turn towards me. I was very glad to see another person. He lifted one hand and waved, follow me, he was saying, follow me. He knows that I am lost. I thought he is trying to help me. Now, to his surprise, there was a black aeroplane, and he could also see the pilot's face. Earlier, he said that he wasn't able to look anything outside because it was so black. But then suddenly he saw an aeroplane. He saw the pilot's face. The pilot's face was turned towards him, and he was, signaling him. He was calling him, okay, follow me. follow me. And our pilot thought, the pilot thought that, okay, I'm lost, and this pilot knows that I'm lost. He is there to help me. A help has come out of nowhere to, direct me. He turned his aeroplane slowly to the north in front of my Dakota so that it would be easier for me to follow him. Now, what he did, the other pilot, what he did, that he flew in, he started to fly in front of the Dakota, in front of the our pilot's flight, so that it is easier for our pilot to follow him. Okay, so the pilot was very intelligent. He thought, okay, the person may not be able to follow me if I am flying beside him. So what should I do? I should go in front of him. So it went in the front. I was very happy to go behind the strange aeroplane like an obedient child. And our pilot, obviously, he had no other option. He was behaving like an obedient child, and he was following the other aeroplane. After half an hour, the strange black aeroplane was still there in front of me in the clouds. He saw that, okay, it has been half an hour past, the half hour has passed, and he could see that the old aeroplane, the other aeroplane, it was flying in front of him. Now there was only enough fuel in the old Dakota's last tank to fly for 5 or 10 minutes more. Now, obviously, as we know that he had no fuel left, it was his second and last fuel tank. That is why he was again frightened that, okay, I can only fly for 5 or 10 minutes more. There is no fuel in my tank. I was starting to feel frightened again. But then he started to go down, and I followed through the storm. Now he saw that when he was feeling frightened again. Okay, he was feeling frightened that what will happen now? I do not have any fuel left. He started to go down. The other aeroplane started to go down, and our pilot also started to follow him through the storm. Suddenly, I came out of the clouds and I saw 2 long straight lines of light in front of me. Suddenly, what happened? He was able to get out of the storm, and he saw now, okay, there were no clouds, and he saw 2 lines. What are the 2 lines? What were the 2 lines? The long straight lines were that of a airport. They were of the airport. It was of the runway. Okay, on the runway there are the lines. If you have ever seen in the movies, or if you have ever taken a flight, you can see that there are lines on the runway. And he could see the lines of the runway, an airport. I was safe. He was, calling himself, okay, a runway. I am near a runway. I'm on an airport. I'm safe. I turned to look for my friend in the black aeroplane, but the sky was empty. He turned to look back. Obviously, he turned to look back. There was no aeroplane. Okay, there was no aeroplane. There was nothing there. The black aeroplane was gone. When he turned to look back, the black aeroplane was gone. I could not see it anywhere. I landed and was not sorry to walk away from the old Dakota near the control tower. I went and asked a woman in the control center where I was and who the other pilot was. I wanted to say thank you. Obviously, the other pilot, the black aeroplane had saved him. He was just looking okay. The black aeroplane was flying in front of me. He also went down, and I followed him. Now, where has the aeroplane lost? Where has it lost? He was trying to find the other pilot. He was trying to find the other black aeroplane and the pilot, but because he wanted to say thank you to him. But what happened? She looked at me very strangely. Now, when he went to the control center, okay, he was not sorry to go to the control center. He left his flight like that only. And when he went there and then laughed, another aeroplane, the woman whom he had asked the question, she saw him strangely and she, what? Other aeroplane? Up there in the storm. There is storm. Okay, no other planes were flying tonight. There were no aeroplanes tonight, because obviously this was a stormy night. There were no aeroplanes in the sky, and yours was the only one I could see on the radar. As she was looking in the radar, do you know what's a radar? Radar is in the control rooms there is a radar, and you must have read it in science, and maybe there is this kind of a screen where you can see the aeroplanes fly. Okay, see, there are these kind of grids are there, and the aeroplanes fly in these kind of grids, and if there are multiple aeroplanes flying, they fly like that. Okay, nowadays there is a rule that two aeroplanes, they cannot fly on the same grid. They cannot fly in the same horizon. If they're flying, then they have to fly at a very long distance. Now she said that today there was only one flight. This is the control room. She said that only today only I saw one flight. There were there were no other planes in the sky tonight because there was storm, and yours was the only one. So who helped me to arrive there safely without a compass or a radio and without any more fuel in my tanks? Obviously, to his surprise, obviously you can understand the condition of the pilot. He was saying, okay, if there were no other flights in the sky, who helped me? Who helped me when there was no compass, there was no radio, there was not any single instrument there to help me in the sky? Who was the another strange black aeroplane? Who was the another strange pilot flying in the storm without lights, obviously? Okay, all these questions were going on in his mind, but he had no answer. He had no answer because obviously we know the truth. There was no other flight. There was no other aeroplane. Now, what kind of a story it is? It is an open-ended story. It is an open-ended story. Do you know what is an open-ended story? An open-ended story is a story in which you do not know the end. You do not know the end. You do not know the climax. You can make your own climax. You can assume your own climax. What happened in the last, you do not know. You can make your own story. You can make your own climax. Okay. The example of an open-ended story is Andhadhun. If you have watched this movie, you must know that in this movie also it was open-ended. Okay, it was open-ended. We did not know that what was the climax. In climax, multiple things could have happened. Okay, multiple climaxes could have been there, but we can only, we can decide the climax based on our own understanding. Now, this story also, the Black Aeroplane, you can decide that which climax do you want. You can assume that it was a ghost aeroplane. It was a ghost aeroplane who was trying to, help our pilot. It can also be there that maybe his subconscious mind was helping him. Maybe he was too desperate to meet his family and to have that English breakfast. That desperation gave rise to, his figment of imagination went wild, and he started imagining the things, and it can be I'm not able to understand that term. There is a scientific term when we, start looking at something. Schizophrenia. It could be schizophrenia. And maybe he was, he had started imagining the things. He was so frightened that he started imagining the things. So this is an open-ended story. So it is based on your own understanding, that whatever climax you can decide. And if you decide a very good climax, you can just write it down in the comment section, that what do you feel happened with our pilot. Now the time for the summary. Okay. The story revolves around the mystery, who was another pilot. As we could see, who was another pilot, we didn't get any answer. The storyteller was on his flight going to England, hoping to have a good English breakfast with his family. English breakfast is the main protagonist of the story, because our pilot is running after that only. He wanted to have breakfast with his family, but during the flight he saw great storm clouds ahead of him, and the clouds looked like black mountains. He could see that the clouds were looking like black mountains, but he entered them anyway. Okay, he entered them anyway, and he saw that everything had turned black. He could not see anything outside. Then suddenly he saw an airplane. He saw another airplane. It had no flight, it had no lights, and the pilot waved his hand and he was asking him to follow him. The storyteller followed that another pilot, as his compass and radio were dead. He followed the other pilot because his compass and his radio, all his technical, assistance had stopped working. Even there was not enough fuel. Even he didn't have enough fuel in his tank. With the help of another pilot, he landed safely. And when he went to the receptionist, as we know that he landed safely, but when he went to the receptionist, the receptionist said that she informed him that there wasn't any other pilot in the sky that night. He was the only one flying the aeroplane at that time, at that night. Okay, at that time. And we were left with an open-ended story, and you can imagine your own climax, and you have to write the climax as I told you, okay, in the comment section. Now the questions. Okay, why was a young seagull left alone in the ledge by his family? The first question is, why was he left alone by his family? The young seagull was afraid to fly. His father and mother wanted him to go and fly with them. The young seagull was afraid, and his parents wanted him to fly with them, but whenever he had taken a little run forward to extreme edge of the ledge and tried to move his wings, he became afraid, because he was afraid he was not able to fly. He failed up to muster up the courage to thrust himself forcibly in the space. He could not gather up the courage to take the plunge. His two brothers and sisters, they were flying. Their wings were shorter than him, but they started flying. But the young seagull somehow thought that his wings would not support him. For this, he was scolded by his parents. He was upbraided by his parents, who gave a threat to him, and he was left alone in the ledge. And we know that in the end, it was a happy ending. His parents, whatever they were doing for his own good. Fear and lack of confidence stop one from learning new things. Do you agree? How did these two traits of the young seagull make him coward? How did he overcome these shortcomings? Obviously, you are a coward if you do not have confidence. Okay, if you have fear in your heart, if you do not have confidence, if you are very underconfident, then nothing can happen. And this is what happened with him. Yes, it is true that fear and lack of confidence stop one from learning new things, as in the story. The young seagull lacked the value of courage and confidence in his character. He did not have courage, he did not have enough confidence. He was too scared of flying. His family tried hard to make him fly, but he refused to do so because of his fear of sinking in the sea water. He thought that maybe if I try to flap my wings, and maybe if I try to jump and take the plunge, I will sink into the water. They even scolded him for his cowardice. They tried to tempt him with food, but he was not willing to learn flying. Okay, they tempted him. They even tempted him, but he was not willing to learn flying. He was not able to muster up the courage. Once he dived, his fear disappeared, and he enjoyed his first flight. It is a fact that unless we try for something and overcome our fear, we cannot learn anything. That, yes, this is true. If we do not overcome our fear, if we do not overcome our shortcomings, then we are not able to do anything. Confidence and motivation are the two most important traits that make any learning possible. If you have to learn, you have to muster up the courage. You have to have these important traits. Okay? From the beginning to the end of the lesson, the black aeroplane is a mystery. How is the black aeroplane a mystery? The narrator started his journey with old Dakota 088. At that time, the sky was clear, as we could see that the sky was clear, but suddenly he found himself in the midst of black clouds. There was zero visibility, everything was black. He couldn't find any way to escape. To his shock, the compass and the radio were dead. He was lost in the storm. All of a sudden, the narrator saw a black aeroplane and was helped by the other pilot. Now, As we could see, he was stuck in the middle of the black clouds, and he said that I wasn't able to see anything outside. He could not see anything outside. Then why? How is it possible? How is it possible that he was able to see another flight, another aeroplane, another person, another pilot? Not only he was able to see the flight, but he was also able to see the face of the pilot. He could see his hand waving. So this shows us that obviously this is a mystery. For half an hour, he was flying behind that plane like an obedient child. There was only enough fuel in the tank to fly for 5 or 10 minutes. When suddenly he saw 2 rows of lights, it was a runway in front of him. He safely landed at the airport. He went to the control center to ask who the other pilot was. To his horror, his was the only flight that could be seen on the radar. Who was the other pilot on the strange black aeroplane flying in the storm without lights remained a mystery till the end. Yes, this remained a mystery till the end because everything happened, everything good, he had reached, he found the runway, he found the, airport, and he was able to land safely. But the mystery still remained. When he went to the receptionist and he wanted to say thank you to the other pilot, he asked him, where is the other pilot? And she told him, to his horror, that there was no other flight in the sky up. So obviously, again the mystery continued. Again there was a mystery that who was the other pilot? Who was the person who was trying to help me? Who was the person who was visible in that darkness? Okay. How did the author come out safely from the black clouds? Now, this question. The author took the risk of flying through the black clouds. He couldn't see anything. We could see, he couldn't see anything. Okay, nothing was visible. Aeroplane jumped and twisted every now and then. Okay, it was jumping. All his instruments had stopped working. The radio and compass were both dead. Suddenly, he saw another plane with no lights on its wings. Another pilot gestured him to follow his plane and turned his aeroplane slowly to the north in front of the author's Dakota so that it would be easier for him to follow. The author was glad to follow him like an obedient child, as we learned in the last answer as well, that he was following him like an obedient child. When nothing worked out for him, when there were no instruments to support him, he saw another man, another pilot helping him, another pilot telling him to follow him so that he could show him the way. After half an hour, the strange black plane was still guiding. It was still guiding after half an hour. Suddenly, he saw 2 long straight lines of light in front of him. It was a runway. He was safe and landed safely. Now, all these lines, or this answer is just similar to the previous answer, but obviously the contexts are different. And the pilot saved him, okay? After landing, he went to the control room to find out who was the other pilot, but obviously it was a mystery because no other pilot was visible on the radar. Okay, so what did we conclude up with? We had what conclusion do we draw from it? The conclusion you have to write in the comment box, as I have been telling you. Okay, so now these 2 beautiful chapters have ended, okay, and have ended on a very positive note that we should always, have confidence. We should not lack confidence. We should always be motivated. And in the other part also we concluded that when we have will in our heart, even to have an English breakfast, then also there is someone. The God helps you, okay? The God finds a way to help you like it did the other pilot, okay? Thank you so much, my beautiful children. Take care. Bye-bye.